Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
I feel like it's looking better, but who knows? Like one bad gust of wind, one wrong thing to go wrong.
Out of control but contained, officials say favorable weather is assisting their fight against the wildfire near Squamish. A glimmer of hope for the hundreds of residents still on evacuation alert. Plus,
investigators are still at the scene, and we are working diligently to identify a motive and the circumstances.
A Surrey businessman has been identified by police as the city's third homicide victim of 2025. And
there is a hunger out there for the policies that the BC Conservative Party initially put forward and we all ran on.
Going their own way, a shake-up in BC politics as two former BC Conservative MLAs launched their own new political party.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Fire officials in Squamish say the Dryden Creek wildfire is holding at 54 hectares in size. As Mira Baines reports, the fire is still considered out of control, but conditions seem to be improving.
Cooler temperatures, the possibility of rain, and winds blowing away from the community of Brackendale are providing a window of opportunity for firefighters to make strong progress.
There's minimal growth overnight, decreased temperatures and increases in humidity, and the chance of precipitation over the next days all have worked in our favor.
This couple on evacuation alert says they're more at ease, but there are still concerns conditions can change quickly.
It's looking better, yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's looking better, but who knows? Like one bad gust of wind, one wrong thing to go wrong.
The Dryden Creek fire is estimated at 54 hectares in size. However, there was minimal growth overnight, according to fire officials. 5 helicopters are assisting with firefighting efforts from the air. Winds are expected to get up to 40 kilometers per hour, but are not causing concern. As a precaution, Alice Lake Provincial Park was closed to campers yesterday, and people were told to evacuate the area. BC Wildfire Service said it was due to visibility concerns and to keep access roads clear. Recreational trails have also been closed in the area near the fire. Squamish's unique network of mountain bike trails are credited with making it easier for fire crews to access the fire.
It's created a safe path to just move up the mountain and given us efficiency getting a hose up this southeast flank.
Fire officials suspect the fire was human-caused. RCMP issued a public plea for information about how the fire started.
Any kind of footage, any information at all, please contact the Squamish RCMP detachment and provide that information to the investigators.
As wildfire fighters continue to make headway over the next few days, a parade organized by the Sikh Temple in Squamish for Saturday has been cancelled. Mira Baines, CBC News, Squamish.
As wildfires get closer to urban areas, Johanna Wagstaff looks at new research that shows cities might actually be making fires worse.
This is an active wildfire in Squamish. It's still out of control, burning on the edge of town and just 40 minutes from downtown Vancouver. It's not the only interface fire as of late. Kelowna, Lytton, Fort McMurray, Lahaina, LA. Fires moving into the cities we live in. Across North America, warmer, drier seasons and city growth means wildfires are creeping closer to towns and suburbs. That's not new, but here's what is. Cities themselves are making wildfire risk worse. We usually think of cities as safe zones, concrete buffers against natural disasters, but new research published in Nature Cities says something very different. Cities are heat traps. Glass, metal, pavement, all of it bakes in the sun, raising temperatures and drying out nearby forests and vegetation. You may have heard it called the urban heat island effect, and it can make the land around cities even more flammable than ever.
I mean, with more fire in the landscape, the greater the probability we're going to encounter communities, large and small. They can often transition to what's basically called an urban conflagration. So you've transitioned from wildland fuels and now you're into structures, and those individual structures can generate these significant quantities of embers, really high temperatures, and it basically spreads from house to house to house. This whole heat island effect it's going to exacerbate that urban conflagration threat.
Okay, so what can we do to prevent cities from becoming wildfire magnets? Well, we can start by building better. Just like we have building codes for earthquakes and sea level rise, we can fireproof the way we build. More cities are joining Fire Smart programs, even places like Squamish, North Vancouver, and Victoria, because rebuilding after a fire costs more than preventing it in the first place.
This free assessment takes about an hour and a half. We'll come work with you, look at the house, look at your vulnerabilities, and really we just look at removing combustible materials, firewood, stored belongings, toys, things that we all have around our house, and moving it away from the structures, then we're going to be in a really good spot.
The LA wildfires forced a shift, showing that even dense cities can burn. And with events like the heat dome, smoke waves, and record blazes, we're being warned. Fire doesn't stop at the edge of town.
iHit is investigating a shooting in Surrey that left one man dead. Saurabh Sandhu reports.
Police say shots rang out in this office building just before 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. A man was found with life-threatening injuries. He died at the scene.
We're identifying the victim as 56-year-old Satwinder Sharma of Abbotsford. Mr. Sharma was at his place of work at the time of the shooting, and he had no criminal history.
CBC News has learned Sharma owned Dynamic Workforce, a labor contracting business. The company website says the business was started in 1992. One review on the website describes owner Satwinder Sharma as a nice and helpful person. Police say the shooting was targeted and no one else was injured in the incident. iHit is asking anyone with dashcam footage who was in the area between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. on Wednesday to contact police.
The priority is to talk to any available witnesses at the scene, as well as family members for background information on Mr. Sharma. And we are doing an extensive video canvass as well.
The killing marks Surrey's third homicide of the year. It comes on back of a spate of shootings targeting local businesses that has already sent shockwaves throughout the community. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
Surrey police are warning the public to be cautious around what they call a significant outlaw motorcycle gang's presence in the Lower Mainland over the next several days. About 700 Hells Angels bikers arrived at a banquet hall in Surrey today, where a celebration of life was held for one of the original members, Rick Ciarniello. Police say the celebrations are expected to spill over into nightclubs, bars, and restaurants over the weekend.
We also know from past incidents that Hells Angels members and some of their support club members are both perpetrators and attractors of violence.
The force says extra officers will be deployed throughout the Lower Mainland. One MLA who was kicked out of the BC Conservative caucus and another who left in solidarity are forming a new political party. Katie DeRosa now on what that means for the official opposition.
Lower taxes, taking away teachers' right to strike, a crackdown on so-called mass immigration, and an end to BC's, quote, reconciliation industry. These are a few of the policy planks of a new political party called One BC, formed by 2 of the 3 independent MLAs.
Hunger out there for the policies that the BC Conservative Party initially put forward and we all ran on.
Dallas Brody is the interim leader. Tara Armstrong is the House leader.
That we've got people, the base, disillusioned with what's happening with that party.
Absent from the ticket is the 3rd independent MLA, Jordan Keeley.
There was a disagreement in what our perspectives were. And I think that's one of the reasons why I asked to just have more time to think about things.
The party registered with Elections BC on Monday. The party sent an email in an attempt to poach some BC Conservative MLAs. So far, none have taken the bait. Here's how we got here. In March, Brody was kicked out of the Conservative caucus over comments which leader John Rustad said mocked residential school survivors. Armstrong and Keeley left in solidarity, accusing Rustad of diluting Conservative values. Since then, the 3 independents have called for the repeal of the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and pushed for an end to sexual orientation and gender identity, or SOGI, policies in schools.
Forming an official party gives the two MLAs a pay raise for party leader and House leader. Also, funding for caucus staff and more opportunities to ask questions in the legislature. This former BC Liberal, BC United Communications Director says the new party could siphon off votes from the BC Conservatives, which is also facing a challenge from another new party, Corinne Kirkpatrick's Centre BC.
It's going to be a war on two fronts, which is not something that we've necessarily seen before.
Rustad declined to comment on Thursday. Political watchers, though, say Rustad should ignore the upstart party at his peril. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
Supportive housing on Granville Street could be coming to an end. The city announced a deal had been struck with the province to eventually move the residents. After years of complaints of street disorder and a fire in an SRO unit Wednesday, Municipal Affairs reporter Justin McElroy was at the announcement. Justin, just what is this deal?
Thanks, Janella. Still a lot to be decided. This seemed to come together last night after that fire at the Howard Johnson Hotel, formerly the hotel that has been a supportive housing unit for a number of years. And as you said, number of complaints over the years about the number of people on Granville and the issues with dealing with the assorted safety concerns that have come out of that. But today, the city said that they've talked with the province, and the province has agreed to move those supportive units elsewhere in the city if the city provides, as Mayor Ken Sims said, the land necessary to put units elsewhere. Now, where that is and how long that will take is still an open question. But today, though, the mayor was optimistic.
We will help the province identify and provide city-owned lands to build purpose-built supportive housing. And we're going to be doing supportive housing differently by building off of the successful experiences and examples that we have with respect to supportive housing.
And he says as part of that, none of these new places would have more than 30 units in them, that there would be wraparound supports. So, of course, there's been optimism in the past about these sorts of deals. The question is, where can you approve them and how long? But today, at least, the province and the city on the same page.
Now, Justin, crime and safety have been a continued concern of City Hall. Are they arguing things are getting better or worse?
Well, this was interesting because this press announcement today came after a number of speakers talked about how they felt that the city was having major issues with crime and safety, saying in some places it had never been worse. A question was put to the mayor saying, are you responsible for this, given that you've been the mayor now for 2.5 years, for people's concerns about safety? And then the new VPD chief, Steve Fry, came in and said that in his mind, the numbers told a very different story.
Crime is at an all-time low in the city. Violent crime, robberies, property crime, commercial residential break-and enters, they're all downward since we've been recording crime, and that's on our public feed. So the city is safer. The reality of crime, it's down. This is a safe city.
So interesting to hear that from the new chief, considering all the conjecture over the years. It'll be interesting to see if we see further dips in crime or increases in certain places, whether their tune changes. But for today, their message is Vancouver is safe. However, the issues on Granville Street, they hope that this announcement from the province helps deal with some of that.
All right. Thanks so much. Justin McElroy reporting. Tens of thousands in BC are without power after a lightning strike this afternoon. This BC Hydro map shows the current outages. The red dots represent approximately 45,000 customers between Vanderhoof and Prince George. Darius Madavi joins us now with our first look at the weather. Darius, it seems like there's a lot of lightning on that map.
That's right. Earlier today, many thunderstorms moving through the interior, thousands of lightning strikes across parts of the province. That's why we have so many thunderstorm warnings, especially in the southern and central interior. Again, many watches and warnings moving through the province earlier today due to all those lightning strikes. You can see this is resets the counter every hour or so. Hundreds an hour moving through many of these regions. If we move to the central interior, you'll see it's a pretty similar picture. And even up in the north, we've seen a few lightning strikes. This is likely why we saw such wide power outages BC Hydro was announcing earlier today, affecting tens of thousands of customers. We'll have more fuel later in the show, Janella.
All right. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
A popular arts and tourist hub is facing financial turmoil. Up next, is housing the solution to Granville Island's troubles? Part of the west parking lot at Spanish Banks Beach is now a creek. Renee Lucas has more.
Canyon Creek runs from Pacific Spirit Regional Park into English Bay, one of many in a network of streams supporting salmon, wetland, and forests that were buried, diverted, or filled in as the city developed.
Pre-contact, before Europeans got here, 50 salmon-bearing streams. Coquitlam, all the way down the river, North Arm, around the point and back up to Port Coquitlam. Now, I think there's only in this area maybe 4 or 5 that aren't covered over.
2 other creeks here at Spanish Banks have already been daylighted, Acadia Creek to the west and Spanish Creek to the east, which saw record salmon numbers last year.
From a traditional knowledge perspective, restoring Canyon Creek is more than an environmental effort. It is a small step towards reconciliation and towards renewing our relationship with the natural world.
65 parking stalls were removed, making more space for the creek along with wetland and riparian ecosystems, while a viewing deck and interpretive signs were added to help educate the public. Olaya Nieto says everything has been placed with a purpose to promote and protect creek biodiversity, including the surrounding berms.
So it will welcome additional wildlife, so not only aquatic species, but we hope to see additional terrestrial species, pollinators, small mammals, and all using this habitat as a combination.
But Olaya Nieto says while the new creek habitat may be tempting to explore, the public should keep its distance and just let biology do its thing. Renee Lucas, CBC News, Vancouver.
Granville Island is warning that without future investment, they won't be able to pay for mounting infrastructure renewal. Justin McElroy now on some proposed solutions to the shortfall.
Granville Island. It's in the heart of the city, a visible gem if there ever was one, and it could be at a turning point.
Granville Island is in trouble.
That is Yute Lee, a popular columnist and filmmaker who partnered with Granville Island on a video for its future. It has nearly 200,000 views in 3 days, a sign of just how interested people are in the island. But its trouble comes from the fact that Granville Island hasn't really changed since it was transformed 45 years ago. And there's a lot that needs upgrades, from decaying buildings to preparing for rising sea levels.
We're kind of stuck in where we can get money from. And it's time now, I think, to look at a long-term renewal plan for the island.
That is Tom Lancaster, general manager for Granville Island, who estimates the overall cost to be up to $300 million. And he's in a tricky place because Granville Island isn't owned by the city, but instead the federal government through the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. But because of how it's set up as a hands-off enterprise, there's no way to easily raise large sums of money.
Our hands are tied a little bit because of the governance and the fact that it's run through the CMHC. But the model fundamentally seems to have either stalled or is just simply not working today.
So how do you fix this? Granville Island has kickstarted a new round of consultations, but a key person who was there during its transformation has some ideas.
Well, let's put housing in.
That is Mike Harcourt, former mayor of Vancouver. At a panel last week to discuss Granville Island's future, he suggested a mix of market and non-market housing for artists and others would be the way to raise the money to make the necessary upgrades. And the crowd there booed him.
I don't mind being booed. I mean, I'm used to that. And I particularly don't mind now that I don't have to worry about votes anymore.
But other panelists agreed that it could be a solution to the cash crunch and an incentive to bring everyone to the table to find a solution.
There was resounding boos, and I think that we're in a place right now in the world where people react so instinctively to things without maybe pondering some of the aspects of it, right? I think at this point in history, we have to really look at everything.
We asked CMHC for comment, and they said that while there are no current plans for housing, they want to work with everyone to understand how Granville Island should evolve. Which is all well and good. But as Granville Island's own GM points out, at some point, someone has to take the lead.
Problems can be pushed into the future over and over until it's no longer really that desirable. We're not there yet, but we're close.
Seemingly everyone agrees that Granville Island is good. It's how it moves forward that is the tricky part. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Stormy skies over the East Kootenays today. Your weather forecast is next.
I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox.
Check out CBC News BC, your local streaming channel. It's a free ad-supported TV channel available 24/7, delivering breaking news, weather updates, daily headlines, and sharing stories that matter to British Columbians. Stream your favorite CBC programs like The Early Edition, BC Today, and On the Coast. CBC News BC is available on connected TV platforms.
Darius Madavi is back with a look at our BC-wide forecast. Darius?
Right, so all those thunderstorms moving through the interior earlier today. We saw thousands of lightning strikes. On the lookout for new fire starts. Fortunately, more rain coming along with those than the thunderstorms we saw yesterday, but these ones much more widespread and much more active. So that's the big weather story for the southern interior, the central interior. But up in the northeast, we have a bit of a different situation. We're seeing a lot of rain moving through this area already, some pretty consistent rainfall. You'd think that would be good considering how much we need rain up in the northeast, but there's a catch. And just keep in mind, we don't have radar coverage for all of the northeast, so this is not all the rain that is coming to that region. Because in the piece right now, over the next couple of days, we're expecting to see pretty consistent rainfall. For most areas, it shouldn't be too much in terms of the totals, maybe 20 to 30 millimeters, in some places up to 40. But the River Forecast Center is warning that in some isolated locations, up to 80 to 100 millimeters of rainfall is possible. And just given the ongoing drought situation in this part of the province, they've issued high stream flow advisories for many basins given the rainfall. And again, the drought situation, this is the update from today. Given how severe the drought is in the northeast, the ground just doesn't have the ability to soak up that water, leading to the potential for erosion, landslides, flooding, that sort of thing. So what should be good rain coming to the area and pretty consistent over a period of a relatively decent time could end up being a bit of a negative situation. So that's just something to be keeping in mind over the next couple of days and something that we are watching for. In the south tomorrow, more thunderstorms are possible, so we're looking out for that as well. But other than that, not really much precipitation making its way to the southern part of the province anytime soon. Temperatures are going to start to drop again tomorrow and then recover once again into the weekend. Conditions across the province tomorrow, again, looking out for those thunderstorms in the south, rain in the northeast, as well as a lot of local smoke, widespread smoke up in the north. And here's our 5-day forecast. Janella, we've got some more sunshine this weekend, but temperatures remaining cool to seasonal.
Quite a dynamic forecast. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us on CBC Vancouver News. To keep up to date with all the latest news, you can head to our website at cbc.ca/bc. Hope you have a great night.